Wonderful. Good evening, everyone. We have a very special event with some very special people tonight. You may have noticed my shirt, okay? There's a very special reason why I am wearing this shirt tonight because uh, Star Trek is something that is very near and dear to Tamar and Crispin, and we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight. Our special guests tonight are Crispin Cain and Tamar Kaye from Mendocino Spirits. Crispin, Tamar, can you say hello and tell us where you are right now, please?
Hello there. We are currently in Ukiah, California.
Beautiful Mendocino County.
Yeah, beautiful Mendocino County. We're in our dear friend Alex DeGrassi's music studio. He's away right now. I was gracious enough to
let us hitchhike on his Wi-Fi.
Yeah, which is better than our Wi-Fi at home or at the distillery. So good to be with you.
Wonderful. So I do want to mention everybody why I brought up Star Trek because Crispin several weeks ago, I think it might have been 2 or 3 months ago, sent me a text, okay, about something that I was not allowed to tell anybody. And I have to admit, I did tell like 2 or 3 people, but told them they had to keep it really, really quiet. Crispin, many of the people on here are like me, Star Trek geeks, sci-fi geeks, and last summer when my friend Eric and I visited your distillery, the 4 of us were talking about Star Trek all the time, almost as much as we were talking about whiskey. Can you please tell us about the honor that was just bestowed upon you by the universe of Star Trek?
Okay, so Star Trek Wines and now Star Trek Wines and Spirits came to us a couple of years ago and began discussions with us about bottling short special bottlings for them as Star Trek Spirits. And I jumped at the chance to be a part of the Star Trek universe, even in a small way. Been a Star Trek fan for 57 years. And I am really happy that these folks came looking for quality products, and their wines are pretty good. I was afraid to open the wine at first, but it turns out it's really good. And now we're going to have spirits. So I've agreed to do 200 bottles at a time at first on a quarterly basis. And they're getting some very special rye that so far nobody else has, but we will also bottle as Mendocino Spirits. And they're great folks, really great folks.
Right, and you got to meet LeVar Burton, you got to meet Brent Spiner, Anson Mount, all those people.
They flew me into the convention in Las Vegas, and I worked their booth with them. And we pre-sold the first 100 bottles of the rye, and they sold a whole bunch of wine.
And it was Crispin's first time ever in Vegas, so he had a full immersion Vegas experience.
God, it was crazy. And so yes, I got to meet Brent Spiner. I got to meet Anson Mount. I got to meet LeVar Burton, and a bit more. But those were the 3 I got to connect with on more of a one-on-one basis.
Yeah.
And there was a good question in the chat already from Michael Bloom. Just want to make sure we get to this. With Star Trek Spirits, on the official bottles, will it say the name of the distillery?
It's definitely going to have my name, and they've given me documents out of Paramount to take out a DBA as Star Trek. And until I get that through,
it'll say Tamar Distillery.
It'll say Tamar Distillery on it. So the first bottles are going to say Tamar Distillery, and then after that, it'll say Star Trek.
We get a DBA as Star Trek, which is pretty cool too.
That is really fucking amazing.
That's insane.
Yeah, it is. And I want to interject briefly that the 200 bottles, I thought it was all sold out at Las Vegas, but what it is they sold 100 bottles at Las Vegas.
Right.
The first 50 people that purchased the bottle got to go to the exclusive tasting.
Yes.
And then the last 100 bottles will be a lottery. So if you're in their Star Trek Wine and Spirits Club, they will choose 100 people that will have the privilege of purchasing.
So right now you can go to StarTrekSpirits.com and sign up for that. It's a beautiful bottle that's kind of egg-shaped that comes in a box that when you open it, it lights from underneath, and we'll have a gold Starfleet Delta insignia on it. And It also comes with the bar top has a magnetized coin in the top that you bring that to Las Vegas next year, and it gets you into the exclusive tasting.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Okay.
So
But the one very practical question I have though is that you said that the Star Trek people or the Paramount people approached you, the Star Trek Spirits people approached you. How did they know about you?
oh well,
We live in a community full of musicians
and makers, and so
makers.
a moderately famous pianist named Spencer Brewer, who is involved with Wines That Rock, um, uh, brought them to me and I to them. And so
Okay,
we had
got it.
face-to-face meetings and then Zoom meetings, and um, it's been really good. And I really appreciate these folks. They're really terrific. Howard Jackowitz is their CEO, and he is such just a shining star in this universe of crazy people in spirits and sales and all like that. And they're terrific salespeople and the kind of people I've wanted to work with for
No,
years.
that's wonderful. I got to tell you, seeing those pictures of you on Facebook, you were so happy, and I was so happy for you, and I felt privileged that you shared it with me ahead of time, because I was so geeked
Yeah.
about it. So
Yeah.
really wonderful, and all props to you. So as far as tonight's tasting and talk is concerned, I just wanted everybody to realize something. We have more samples than usual here. Okay. Usually we're doing, five, four, maybe five samples. Okay. Obviously we have 8 samples. We're going to do this a little bit differently. Okay. And this is for everybody's benefit. Usually we do one at a time, but I tasted them all ahead of time, and I talked with Crispin about this. And so we're going to actually have a few different, groupings. Okay. So the first grouping, the first act, it's going to be the 2 bourbons. Okay. The 2 bourbons. We have the low gap straight bourbon 3-year, and we have the low gap straight bourbon distiller select. Okay. And these are both in the low 40s. The first one's 41 ABV, the second one is 42.2. And so we're going to start off with those 2. So we're going to be tasting them together. So there's no ceremony here. People can start to drink whenever they want, but I just want to say, cheers and thank you for joining us here tonight. So cheers to you, and we're all really looking forward to this. So cheers. Oh, very nice clinking. Very, very nice. I appreciate that. Mm. So, please tell us about this bourbon. Tell us about the mash bill, the grain, things like that, please.
Okay, so the 41%,
Yeah.
let's start with that. The most recent bottling of low gap bourbon. This is primarily bourbon distilled in 2019, and I added bourbon that I also made in 2016 that was still in barrel. So there's probably 15% 7-year-old bourbon in here.
Oh.
The 2019 was corn and malted barley and rye. It was unmalted rye that I bought from the Mendocino Grain Project. And this was rye that was grown in Round Valley near a little burg called Covelo in Mendocino County. It is, Julia says it's pretty amazing. Yes, it is. Thank you. In 2016, obviously 2015, 2016, there was kind of a crisis in barrels, and I was buying barrels from Independent Stave, and they stopped answering. They stopped replying to my emails, and finally I called, and they weren't selling barrels to me anymore, or a lot of people. They cut off a lot of people, and it was kind of a thing because it pushed me to different wood and better quality wood. And so by late 2016, I switched to Canton Cooperage in Canton, Kentucky. And so I went from wood from Missouri primarily, and 18 and 24 month cured wood, to Kentucky oak that's been cured for 36 months.
Oh, longer. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
And so this is one of the changes that we see between this bourbon and the next one. The next one is primarily younger wood from Missouri.
Okay. Let's talk one other question though about this first one. So you said that there's some juice in here that's 7 years old. Then there's other juice that's 3 years old. Do you actually have like can you tell us what the actual mash bill of this is? Like what percentage of this do you think is actually corn? And you said there's malted barley and there's some rye, correct?
Okay. So the 2019 is actually about 70% corn and 20% malted barley and 10% unmalted rye.
Okay.
And the 16 is 65% corn, 20% malted barley, and 15% malted rye.
Okay. All right. So we're talking about corn between 65 and 70. We're talking about the malted barley, around 15% or so, and then the rest and then the rest is unmalted rye, you said, correct? For the rest of it?
In the 19, yeah.
The first one is unmalted rye, and in the 16 is malted rye.
Right.
Interesting. Got it. Okay. Wonderful. All right. It's rich. Yeah. And the nose is amazing. The nose is amazing on this.
Mhm.
Oh, wow. That's beautiful. One thing about your whiskeys, which is interesting to me, is that repeating the process. Okay, repeating the process must be challenging sometimes because I know that you like to combine different types of barrels. And so, for instance, that barrel from 2016, does that exist anymore, or did you use all of it when you put it together in this?
Oh no, it still exists. I actually have I have 3 barrels of 16, maybe it's 4 barrels of 16 still in primary aging that haven't been touched. And last year I unified a number of barrels from 16 that are still in a small tank. I actually bottled some of that stuff for JCB, which is a whole nother project for John Charles Boisset. And I guess that's a subject of another discussion entirely.
Okay, so it still exists. So the answer is it still exists, and you can use it both to be bottled by itself or in other projects.
Yeah, thank you for catching him before he went down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, and I have.
I know how this goes.
I still have bourbon from 2017 in barrels as well.
Got it. So what's the difference between let's going on to the second one right now. Okay. So the second one is 42.2 ABV. It also says that it's, a 3-year bourbon. Okay. So that obviously the youngest age in there is 3 years. Can you tell us what is in this and also what do you mean by Distillers Select?
Okay. So I went through, this is bourbon from 2016 that I bottled at 3 years old. And I chose specific barrels for this unification. There is no other age in here but 3-year-old. There is only barrels from Missouri. And I had a couple of Renegade barrels in there, I must admit. While I was flailing a bit after Independence Dave cut us all loose, I bought some wood from a cooperage called Barrel 53, and I couldn't get any information about the wood. I believe they're in Missouri, but they're getting wood from a variety of sources. So there's 2 barrels in here from Barrel 53.
Okay.
But mostly barrels from Independence Dave, and so the mash bill here again is 65% corn, 20% malted barley, 15% malted rye. The corn and the barley are from Breese from Wisconsin. And
they do the malting. So you're not doing the malting. Okay, the malting is done elsewhere.
Yeah. And the rye at this point was grown and malted in Oregon.
Okay. And where's your corn from, by the way? Is all your corn from the Midwest, or are you getting it locally?
Yeah, from the Midwest. There's not enough local grain for me to get serious about it. There is some, and they want to ramp that up, and I want to ramp up purchases from local supplier. And we're working on that. I mean, we'll get there because there's surprises coming in the future in terms of bourbon that we're all going to love.
Hold on, I want to make sure I repeat what you just said. There are surprises coming in the world of bourbon that we're all going to love.
Mhm.
Can you tell me what that means? I mean, nobody here is listening too hard.
Okay. So 2020 bourbon is still in the barrels, and I will start blending and unifying barrels this fall. And instead of rye, that minor fraction is now Sonora wheat. That's locally grown.
So that's a nice local grain. Nice.
Yes, and it is really awesome spirits. I really love it, and I hope the rest of the world agrees with me. So
Got it.
Yeah.
Very, very nice. So
Yeah.
let's go back to the term distillers. Okay, so you call this the Distillers Select Barrel. So what do you mean by that? Is this just barrels that you found that were so darn good that were just ready to be bottled at 3 years?
Yep. So I go through and review each and every barrel and make choices about what needs more time, what I believe needs more time and still is in the barrel now, and what can come out, what we can bottle, what's there, what's turned that corner far enough in aging to get to the point where we want to put it in a bottle. And
Got
so
it.
that's what it's about.
Okay. And by the way, for everybody here, I just want you to know if you're ever in Northern California, 2 hours north of San Francisco is this place called Ukiah. And if you're planning to be anywhere up in that area, please let me know. And I will put you in touch with Crispin and Tamar. Okay. And of course, David Weil and Weiss are up there. They would host people. And I just got to tell you that last summer when I visited it, tasting with you directly from the barrels with Drew Faulkner and my friend Eric Weil, that was truly the highlight of my summer last summer. It was so wonderful. It was one of my favorite whiskey experiences everywhere. It was just great. And other people should have that experience because it was just it was
like
wonderful.
Paul wants to come out and see it.
Yeah.
People want to come. People want to come.
Yeah. So I want to say that everybody in this discussion today or listening to us is welcome, and come find us, and we will gladly host you in the distillery and give you the full tour and spend some time between the barrels.
Wonderful. A little housekeeping note. I want people to realize that because we have more samples than usual, we're going to be going a little bit later than usual. Okay, you just want to budget the time. We will not be able to finish directly at 8 o'clock as we usually do. We're probably going to 8:30, but I just want to let everybody know that. So what I want us to do right now is we're going to go on to the next two whiskeys. Okay, Act 2. Okay, Act 2. Yes, Act 2. Act 2. Act 2 are the following whiskeys. We have the Spirit whiskey. Okay, and we have the blended whiskey. So the first one actually is the blended whiskey. So low gap blended whiskey is our third sample here, and our fourth sample is going to be the Spirit whiskey. So let's go to the blended whiskey and then the Spirit whiskey, please. All right. So, blended whiskey. What are you blending, Crispin? Please tell us what is in this blend.
Well, this blend is entirely an in-house blend, and often when we say blended whiskey, we're expecting there to be aged high proof grain neutral spirits in it, and this one has none of that. But it's a blend of corn whiskey and malted barley. And this is actually, though it's not mentioned on the label, this is the first whiskey that I actually put into used cognac barrels after I felt there was enough American oak involved.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So when you say corn whiskey, and not technically bourbon then?
Right. The corn whiskey was 95% corn and 5% malted barley.
Okay.
And those went into new charred American oak. And then time came, I forget how long, maybe it was 20 months. I believe it was 20 months. I decided to take it out of the charred oak, blend the whiskeys together, and put it into used cognac barrels for more aging. And I'm looking at it. My label says this was bottled in April of 2016 and that we distilled in July of 2012. And I know that's true. It wasn't quite 4 years old, but it was getting close.
You know, there is I love this. There's a spiciness and a sweetness to it. You know, you know, I'm loving that. Is the spiciness? I wonder if that's from the cognac barrels, possibly. You know, there's something here. I love this.
It has a
This is
great
wonderful.
nose.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the corn in the cognac barrel could be like Christmas candy or that like burnt sugar thing.
Right. Somebody said cardamom. Somebody's getting some cardamom. You know,
Yeah.
a few other things. No, this is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, by the way, you mentioned that this is all an internal blend, and there's no neutral grain spirits. Are all of your whiskeys made on the same stills? And can you describe your stills to us a little bit, please?
Sure. The stills I'm using are all alembic pot stills from cognac, and all copper. There's 2 stills set up at the distillery. There's a big 750-liter still in the front still room that, although is still the same basic design as stills from cognac, it was actually originally constructed and made in 1967 and installed it at the distillery in 1999. The other still is smaller. It's about 430 gallons, and it was actually originally constructed in cognac in sometime between 1790 and 1810. And so I've been doing first.
I want to make sure people had heard that. Okay, that's a little tiny detail that could easily have been missed by people. So everybody, I want you to hear what Crispin just said. Crispin, when was that still made?
Okay, so Hubert Germain Robin and I stood in that room and I said, "How old do you think this is?" And he looked at it, looked at the nameplate, looked at the company that made it, and he said sometime between 1790 and 1810. And so that's what we're going with. And actually, the company that made it, Robin, was swallowed up by Prulot in the 1840s. And they had a place they were making stills in Jarnac, which is this town in Cognac.
So it's absolutely pre-1840.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Actually, great question came up here. How did you get that from the Cognac region to Northern California?
Well,
People purchased it.
Yeah, it got purchased. So its last commercial life in Cognac was at Chateau Tiffon. And you know what's happened in Cognac, like many places where the big boys write the rules, you can no longer perform second distillations in stills smaller than 40 hectoliters or 1,000 gallons.
So they made the stills obsolete, and they became available for sale. And
right.
So we have a twin in a crate. I think you probably remember us pointing it out, Gil.
Yeah, we haven't.
But so we bought the 2 stills that are that old.
Yep.
That's incredible. The history, because that is one of the things that I loved about your distillery, is when you also showed us your really old barrels, okay, that you really can't do much with at this point, you know, but the history of the barrels and where they were and what they had been used for, you know. Yeah, tell us a little bit about the distillation process, if you can.
Okay, so I'm still using the double distillation process that was taught to me by Hubert. You know, I'm proud of the fact that distillation in cognac has been passed from master to apprentice for more than 5 centuries, and I'm proud to be part of that tradition. And I still keep that same method in making the whiskey. And so I'm fermenting in-house, fermenting the dryness using enzymes and champagne yeast. And that allows me to go into a direct fire copper pot still. It's you know, a marvelous thing. I'm doing first distillations in the larger still and second distillations in the smaller still. This is working really well for us. I'm also, as a side note, distilling gin in that smaller still. And
you have many fans of your gin here. Many fans of,
great.
of your gin here.
Yes, they're all copper pots.
Yeah, Paul comes up with a question. They're both copper. Yeah.
Got it.
And,
Okay. So this blended one, it's wonderful. Okay, it's just absolutely delicious. It's rich. You're right. I mean, you can tell that it has not been cut with anything neutral. It's all, it's all whiskey. Is what this is. This is wonderful. Yep. So this next one, okay. What in the world is a spirit whiskey? And by the way, and it says 7 years on it, and it's got a great nose. Okay, so can you tell us what is a spirit whiskey? What is the grain, etc.?
Okay, so this is the first whiskey that I have produced that does include grain neutral spirits. And so in 2015, I had lots of grain neutral spirits on board that I purchased to distill the gin with. The grain neutral spirits are 80% GMO-free corn from Quebec and 20% organic wheat from Italy.
Okay.
And as an experiment, I decided to hit it with rainwater down to 60% and put it into new charred American oak. And
did you say you hit it with rainwater?
Yes.
That's
filtered
beautiful.
Rainwater.
Filtered rainwater off the roof. Yes. And we have big tanks we collect rainwater with for blending. And so then
that's wonderful.
I put it in the barrels. It was an experiment. I didn't know what was going to happen. The world has wanted both a less expensive bottle from me and a more expensive bottle from me. And this year they're getting both. So
okay,
I retail this one for $40 at the distillery.
$40.
Yes.
$40 because it is a grain
So it's
spirit and then 10% our bourbon.
Right. It is 90% barrel aged grain neutral spirits and 10% straight bourbon whiskey.
Okay, now which part is the 7 year?
Both.
The grain, both.
Both the bourbon and we have Annie here made it all 7-year-old. Okay.
And can you tell us what happened when you were looking to what we were going to call this thing and why you called it the spirit whiskey?
Oh, well, I started looking at the standards of identity in the federal regulations. Okay. And the federal regulations allow us several levels of blending with neutral spirits. And spirit whiskey is one of those definitions that's rarely used. But after Prohibition, and actually during and after Prohibition, there were distilleries stuck with these barrels of whiskey that had been sitting since 1918 and earlier. And they had evaporated, they were low, they were heavily oaked, and what are they going to do with it? So the definition spirit whiskey allows us to either blend with unaged grain neutral spirits and actually neutral spirits from any source, but you got to list that on the label. So it says distilled from grain on mine, right? But we could, they could, after Prohibition, they could use anything. So it was one of the compromises after Prohibition. And it allowed distilleries to do something with all that old whiskey that was a palatable spirit. Yeah.
So one thing that I like about you is how you are creative and how you enjoy your own whiskeys. Okay. So one story that I like to tell, and everybody here who last time that we had you, you shared your 5-year aged gin with us. Mm-hmm. And last summer when we visited you in Ukiah, and we went to your friend's restaurant, and you actually purchased a round for the table of gin and tonics made with your almost $200 a bottle 5-year aged gin. And it's one of my favorite whiskey stories ever, because the fact is that, a lot of people don't understand that you're a human being and you enjoy your whiskeys the way you want to enjoy them. There's no right or wrong. Okay. Right. This spirit whiskey is unique. Okay. How do you like to enjoy this spirit whiskey? Because this is unlike anything I've ever tasted before.
Oh, well, it's really great in a whiskey sour.
Or whiskey punch. I mean, it's it lends itself to cocktails. Our mixologist, Hulis, has been having a heyday making different cocktails called the siren and
and
seance and
things
whatnot.
like that.
But he's making some delicious cocktails, and kind of some of them are like tiki drinks.
Yeah.
So
He's been going crazy with it.
But it's
I can see that because this is unique, so you might as well have fun with it because it is unique. By the way, it's got a great mouthfeel to it. It's like chewy. You know, there's something in there that has like it's a good texture to it. I guess I don't know where that comes from. Maybe it's a little oily or something, but it's got a really nice coating feeling to it.
Well, it's been a long time since I cold stabilized and filtered anything. And
so all the fats
yeah, I think when I bottled some young bourbon like 10 years ago, I cold stabilized and filtered, and then I just kind of never went back. And I unify barrels into a tank, and I will add some water. I will wait. I'll let it stabilize on its own in a period of months. All the barrel particles settle out of the bottom. I pump it out of the racking valve on the tank, and I'm real careful about it. I put it through a 150 micron screen to make sure the bee's knees and particles don't get through to the filler, and we just go for it. So it's a pretty rough filtration with just that screen. As I literally have a hose gasket that has a screen in it that goes on the filler for that 150. That's it.
Very nice. So right now, what I want people to do, and then I'm going to ask you a specific question though, but I just posted for everybody the order of the third act. Okay. The third act, these all go together. Okay. These are all wheat whiskeys, and you'll tell us about them in a minute. I posted the order right now for everybody. The first one is the Low Gap Bavarian Hard Wheat. That's 45.5. The second one is the Low Gap Bavarian Hard Wheat, which spent 2 years in small oak barrels, 50%. And then the third one is the Low Gap Bavarian Wheat Batch 298. Okay, so those are the next three. While we're all pouring that, can you tell us a little bit about what is this Germain Robin? Your technique. Okay, and where you said that you learned your craft. Did you actually learn all of your distilling practices in the Cognac region? Did you go there and you spend time studying there?
No, actually, Hubert Germain Robin came to California in 1983, and he and Ansley Cole met because Hubert and his wife Carol were hitchhiking, and Ansley picked them up in far northern California near Arcata, which is by Eureka. And Ansley speaks French, so they started talking, and Hubert wanted the opportunity to come to wine country here and make brandy, and so they did. And I moved to Mendocino County. Let me back up. I started working in a winery in 1983 in Pleasanton, California. In 1985, I moved to Mendocino County to get closer to real wine country, and I began working at a winery called Hidden Cellars, which was near Ukiah. They were vinifying wine for the Germain Robin Brandy Project. And so I'd see this fellow go back and forth a few times, and we'd be extra special careful when his grapes were being crushed. And I was, barrel fermentation of whites was a big thing back then. So I was managing that cellar. And so I would see the light of day at crush for about a week, and then I'm indoors and highly detail oriented, that kind of work. I had to manage nearly 500 barrels.
Wow.
And then once the whites were put away, I would assist in preparing reds for bottling in the spring. And I was going to school part-time as well. And
so you weren't busy at all.
No. Then 1989 came around, and I essentially, longer story short, I got a phone call, and it was someone at Germain Robin asking if I would come interview for the job as a brandy master's assistant. And I went to the interview, and I got the job. And so
That's wonderful. That's great.
Yeah, and then they helped me get started, and they leased us equipment for a number of years. And then when Hubert retired and they sold the brand to Gallo in 17 and 18, they offered to sell us the equipment. We bought equipment, and what we started making whiskey in 2010, and so here we are.
Did you say Charente method?
Right. So distillation method. So
let me stop you for 1 second. Okay.
Yes.
Everybody, you don't have to wait for us to tell you to start drinking. Okay. You can start drinking this next batch. I've already started drinking the first one, which is the low gap Bavarian hard wheat.
Yeah.
Okay. So
just took a sip of
I just took a sip.
probably
Yeah.
of it for the first time in quite a while.
In quite a while. I haven't opened a bottle of this for a while. Yeah.
well, do you like your own stuff? Is it good?
I do. This is really good. Yeah.
So what is Bavarian hard wheat? What is the mash bill?
Okay, so it's 100% Bavarian hard wheat, and that wheat has been malted. I bought it from Brees. Bavarian wheat is something that was brought to Pennsylvania, and there are Amish farmers who keep that pure in terms of wheat. They're not hybridizing, and so they sell their excess crop to malting houses and let it go. And so I had the good fortune to be able to buy some of that stuff.
Why do they call it hard wheat? Is there like, well, what is it about it? Is the husk on it harder than other types of wheat? I mean,
yeah, there's hard wheats and soft wheats, and the hard wheats. Let me see if I can remember. The hard wheats might be a little higher in protein than soft wheats, or I'm sorry to say, it might be the other way around.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Just curious.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so there.
And so are all three of these made from the same grain?
Yes, the same malted Bavarian hard wheat. Yes.
Yeah,
the grain's a little leaner. It's a little tougher. Gives up a little less, but the flavor is a little more concentrated in the grain.
But it was a happy accident that led us to Bavarian hard wheat.
Right.
Because it was our friend Patricia who was brewing beer and also wanted to learn some of our crafts, and she brought us some fermentation material essentially. And
well, let me tell that story.
Yeah.
So Patricia Walker called me and said she'd like to learn how to distill. And I said, well, I knew she's making beer. And I said, what are you making beer out of this week? She said, I have this malted Bavarian hard wheat thing. And I said, well, bring up 50 pounds and we'll work on that and we'll ferment it and we'll distill it. We'll see what happens, So that's what we did. And that was 2009, I think. And
we all decided it was good.
Yeah, it was great. As a new spirit, it was really wonderful. Okay. And we used to release that as a white whiskey too.
Yeah, but
so what frustrates me, I got to tell you one thing that frustrates me and must also frustrate you, is that on the shelves, nobody knows what this is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. And, remember we talked to Benny's to order a bunch of your stuff, and they got a bunch of your hard wheat and then they get several bottles of it and also the blended whiskey. But really it didn't sell that well because nobody knew what it was.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yep. And it's good. And that must be frustrating for you because a lot of your stuff is very creative and educating the marketplace.
Yeah.
Is probably a challenge for a small distillery like yours. That must always be an issue. But, by the way, I'm going on to the second one while you're going to respond to that.
Yeah, right. But locally, people found out that they loved the wheat and it became like a cult classic.
Yeah.
And I was saying, unfortunately, the price of wheat.
And I haven't made this spirit for quite a while.
Yeah, because that's what I was leading up to. Because unfortunately, the price of wheat skyrocketed, and it made it unapproachable for us.
Ah, got it. Well, I got to tell you, this is good stuff. And this 100 proof one, Eric just said, "Oh wow, the 100 proof," and it's like, this is this packs a punch, and it's a good punch.
Yes.
Yeah. The 100 proof one is a single barrel, and it was again a barrel that Crispin found just delectable all by itself.
It was a single barrel. Was it 3 barrels? I forget. Show me let me see the label.
Because this one's also young. The second one, it's only 2 years.
Yeah. Well, that was the thing is I chose this because, right, it was 324 bottles.
It was a single barrel.
Well, it had to be two because,
There you go.
maybe not.
Anyway, it was a while back ago.
You
What
can argue
did you
about
guys say
that one later, okay?
Yeah.
18,
We can argue all night.
yeah. So,
2014.
I had unified barrels and added some water to them, maybe a year before, and knocked it down to 50% from 60. And then I was reviewing barrels, and this was just something really wonderful. And the combination of the grain and the wood was spectacular. So I said, we better do this and bottle it while we can. And so we did.
And I can see
You know,
how it
it
definitely
reminds me also, some of the people here might not remember that the first whiskey of yours that I ever tasted, which Brett Pontani picked for me, was your low gap 2-year rye, and it's the ability to make a really good spirit. It doesn't necessarily take 15 years. You can make a really good spirit if you know what you're doing in shorter time. And that
Yep.
2-year rye was one of my all-time favorites, as we've discussed. And the fact that this is also a really good 2-year spirit, that says something.
Yes.
It's wonderful stuff. It's
Yeah.
delicious.
having it next to the 4-year, you really taste like the newer whiskey, but it is so silky smooth.
And there is a
Yeah.
perfume to this that is just incredible. And it's one of the reasons why we did it, because it was so good.
Right. Now, both of these were these both virgin oak casks, the first two?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons why tonight we decided, when you and I were talking about in what order, why I wanted to put these three together, because the third one is the same 100% wheat mash bill, right? 100% wheat. But this third one is aged in a Sauternes cask. Okay.
Yeah.
So was this ever aged in virgin oak? Was it finished in Sauternes? Like, tell us about the process.
It was finished in Sauternes.
Okay.
On the cast the same
Right.
size.
People are asking, the primary aging in American oak is in 52-gallon barrels that are charred, American white oak. And then the Sauternes barrels, we bought those and took the wheat whiskey that had been in American oak and put it in the Sauternes barrels, for sure. And it's pretty fantastic stuff.
So tell us about this Sauternes cask. So where did you source it from, and why did you decide to take the wheat and then put it in the Sauternes?
I forget where I got the used barrels from, to tell you the truth, but
Okay.
they were Grand Premier Cru Sauternes barrels. They were not cheap. Back then, those barrels were $900 a piece. And
this makes me happy. I'm drinking this right now.
I really liked it.
And
I have
like some cinnamon. I'm getting some cinnamon, like mulling spices, mulled cider.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
The last I don't forget how much you said Bob had, but the last of it left the Alembic warehouse a few months ago.
6 months ago. They still had a half a pallet of this.
So there are gems to be found out there on the happy trails of life.
Yeah, I don't know where it went, but
Yeah.
but it's gone. I know that Vinny's had some of this for a while back when, and God only knows.
Yeah.
Distributors don't always want to tell us where things have gone. And,
right. I actually, I'm glad you bring that up before we go on to the last act and then to our questions from the group. We discussed this last time, but I want you to elaborate on it again. And in what states are you currently available? Are your whiskeys available? And what, or not just whiskeys, your spirits? In what states are your spirits available right now?
Well,
we've been sold in 33 states, so we're out there to be found. And through different distributors, we've been in Florida and Kansas. Not too long ago, we got a Facebook ping. Somebody found us in a bar in Oklahoma. We've been spotted in Casper, Wyoming. We're out there, Kansas City, etc.
New Orleans.
But so people can order it in most states, including Puerto Rico, through the whiskey shop.
Okay. Okay. Everybody, I want you to hear this and understand that. Okay. The whiskey shop, San Francisco, one of my favorite places. Okay. If you're ever in San Francisco, and I know David Weil and my wife have stopped by there recently. Debbie Samuels has stopped by there recently. Every time I go to San Francisco, I go there. They will ship anywhere. Okay. And they carry quite a few of Crispin and Tamar's spirits.
And they're receptive to what people want.
And let me see, the website is whiskeyshopUSA.com.
Yeah. No, but we have happy news that we just got a direct connection with a distributor in Texas. So Mendocino Spirits is about to take over Texas.
Nice.
And we're got direct connection with people in Utah, and Utah seems to like the gin a lot.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And then we have California, of course, but we're working on getting connected in other places. We've had interest from people in Michigan that want to really bring us in, and we've been stymied by getting taken on by a distributor. And so
did you ever get in contact with that person in Philadelphia I put you in touch with, the guy from Bottled? Did you guys ever connect?
I don't know if that.
Oh connected. No, I might have dropped the ball on that. I should get on it.
Okay, so we'll talk about that later, because he does. Pennsylvania is a really weird state. They have the LCB system, and so the way that he gets around it, it's genius. Is he buys casks and then bottles it himself, but you send him your own labels, so it's your own stuff. But since he's bottling it, he can actually get around the LCB system.
Interesting.
Wow.
Yeah. Clearly a lawyer was involved. I mean, it is brilliant. And also, since we're talking about the business here, and again, before we go into the fourth act, the final act here, what's coming next from you guys? Are you doing single malts? What other things are we going to see coming from Mendocino Spirits going forward?
So right now in production, let me see, last November, December, I decided to experiment with American single malt. I put up 6 barrels, and then right now I'm in the beginning of making another 20 barrels of 100% malted barley. I actually have a little bit of corn, and I have 2 tanks I've fermented. One has a little bit of corn in it just to mix it up. But American single malt's coming our way.
By the way, I cannot wait to taste that. I just cannot wait to taste that.
And so I will do both single malt and blended malt whiskey, because apparently the world wants this blended thing, and the big producers have developed the Americans' taste for blended whiskey. So I intend to age more grain neutral spirits in barrels. I am on my way towards making as much as 115 barrels of whiskey this year. I have already.
You're over 60, I think.
Yeah, I'm at 60 barrels.
And let's talk about the barley. Okay, so where are you getting? I assume it's all malted barley. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, are you getting it from again? From like Minnesota area? Is that where you're getting your malted barley from?
Wisconsin.
Okay.
Reese in Wisconsin. So what's crazy is one of my assistants right now, this guy named Eric Vogt, and he grew up in Chilton, Wisconsin, and he became an adult, and his parents sold their property. They had a big dairy farm, and this is the location of Reese right now. This is where this guy grew up.
What a connection. That's beautiful.
It's really cool.
Okay. So then it's malted. So then it's barley from Wisconsin, grown in Wisconsin, malted in Wisconsin, and then shipped out to you.
Yes.
Wonderful.
So far I've actually performed 2 first distillations, and day after tomorrow I launch into a second distillation. And it is looking and smelling really good at the distillery.
Yeah.
I am now jealous of Eric and Michael, because Eric Leader and Michael Bloom are going to be at your distillery in about 2 weeks, and I'm sure that they are going to get the ability to taste a very little bit of that out of that barrel, and I am so jealous of that right now. I cannot tell you.
So the 6 barrels I made last, 6 barrels I bottled last December. One of them in particular is showing extremely well, and I will, of course, when the guys come, I will break out samples from that barrel because I'm really proud of it, and we'll get to look at new spirit as well that we're making this month.
Eric, Michael, is there any way that I can get you guys to take some small sample bottles with you there? You know, these little bottles you see here, you know, smuggle a few there for me.
Yes, there is. Yes, there is.
I can neither confirm nor deny that I will be bringing a backpack full of sample bottles.
I will make sure they get goodies to take back with them. So then you've asked about what's coming. So let's talk more about that.
Right. And while you're talking about that, anybody who wants to start tasting the final act, the rye, can start to taste the rye. We will talk about the rye soon, but please tell us what it is that is coming.
Okay. In January, I will be bottling rye malt whiskey from 2013, and this will be labeled as 10-year-old. I just sent a label, actually 2 labels, to the printer today that is a special blend of 10 finished whiskeys that's mostly rye, 70% rye, 20% bourbon, and the other 10% is small amounts of straight corn, straight malted barley, straight malted wheat. I have that blend rebarreled in both used bourbon barrels and one used cognac barrel that has an interesting story. My first day of work with Germain Robin, we unloaded a truckload of used barrels that belonged to Hubert's grandfather.
That was back in what, like your first day with him was that 89? Is that what you said?
August of 89. My 34th anniversary of working at the distillery just recently passed.
Okay, well, I got married exactly 34 years ago in a week because I got married in August of 89. Wow. So we're having our 34th anniversary, and so 89. But I want to make sure everybody understood what you just said. You started working there. This was your first day, 1989, and then you saw barrels that were his grandfather's barrels.
Right. And
okay.
possibly, we'll just say possibly his great-grandfather's barrels. Because on that day, you know, because one head has the family name on it, Jules Robin and Company Cognac. And Jules Robin was one of the big 5 producers before the Depression, before World War II. So I said, Hubert, how old are these barrels? And he said, oh, I don't know, maybe 1890. And I said, really? Okay, that's cool, you know. And so then I learned more about cognac. And in fact, in 1875, phylloxera killed all the wine grapes in most of Europe, and certainly all of France. And so I came back to him and I said, well, 1890, how's that possible? There was no new cognac in 1890. Couldn't these barrels be 1875 or earlier? And he said, of course that's possible, but we'll never know. And so that's the possibilities with the barrel. So when Germain Robin sold out to Ernest Gallo in 2018, I was given the opportunity to buy remaining barrels from them. And in fact, I had little money at that point, didn't know what I'd keep them wet with just to keep them alive.
Right.
So the nice lady on the phone calling me said, well, why don't you just choose a barrel and you can have one? And I wish I had just snagged a few more because I could have.
Sure.
But I chose the one barrel, knowing that it was a barrel I unloaded that first day, and created a special blend of whiskeys to go in it, created enough to fill 6 more bourbon barrels with it.
Okay, I have to stop you for a second there. How in the world is such an old barrel able to hold liquid and not leak? What do you have to do to that? Because I'm sure that that's always a fear with a barrel like that you put juice in and all of a sudden you see leaking. How do you make sure?
It's been kept wet with spirits the entire time it's been in existence.
So it never dried.
Okay.
This
It
is
never- yeah.
this is a miracle in and of itself.
Okay.
So I asked about, well, where did the barrel come from? What? So Hubert was able to buy the barrels from Martel Cognac. Martel Cognac bought them from his family in 1952 when Hubert was 5 years old, 4 or 5 years old, and so there had been brandy in that barrel all the way until it got to us at the distillery in '89. It still had a gallon of brandy in it to keep it wet.
Okay.
And
So what you're saying here is that you are now using those barrels to make whiskey that eventually is going to be coming to market.
correct.
Wow.
So
I can't wait.
Yeah.
so I
So
was
there'll be an exclusive
yes.
package of
Okay.
the blended the whiskey blend in American oak and the cognac barrel. So there'll
Okay.
be a package piece.
There'll be two different bottlings with similar labels that say Mendocino Spirits, and it'll be a different Mendocino Spirits label than we've seen.
That commemorates Crispin's 60th year.
Right, commemorates my 60th year of existence, which is this year, and it does say rye malt whiskey on it because it's 70% rye, and I don't have to talk about the rest of the
Right.
world.
So let's talk about this rye.
Rye.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Let's talk about this rye. So this rye, this is rye malt 8-year. Can you tell me what percentage? What's the mash bill on this? Is this 100% rye?
Yes.
This is 100% malted rye from
Okay.
Oregon. I distilled this in 2014. It spent 30 months in new charred American oak, and then I unified barrels. I prepared some for bottling by adding rainwater, and what I didn't bottle went back into used cognac barrels for extended aging.
Okay, wait. So this was first virgin oak and then cognac barrels. Is that what it was?
Yes.
Yes, for 6
Okay.
years. Cognac.
Yeah. 5.5 or 6 years.
And is this the same stuff that used to be the 2-year low gap, or is this
Yes.
a different one?
Yes.
Okay. I recently poured for a few of my friends the 5-year rye, and both of them, when they noticed that, their initial reaction was, "Wow." Was their
Yeah.
initial reaction. This is amazing.
I was looking at inventory. That 5-year rye, as you may remember, is a blend of 5, 7, and 8-year-old rye. I literally have 120 bottles of that left, and we'll never see it again.
Oh my God.
Who was Captain Fletcher?
Josh Eisenberg just asked who's Captain Fletcher. Captain Fletcher was a real person, a historic figure in Mendocino County. Captain Fletcher is of Scottish descent, was born aboard ships in 1829 in the China Sea. He came to Mendocino County in the 1850s, landed at a place now known as Cuffy's Cove. He climbed the cliff, got up on land, and found Native Americans and bears. And in his journals, he says he remained friends with both of them all his life. We wanted a historic figure on one of the Mendocino Spirits labels, someone that we could all respect.
It connected with Mendocino County.
And connected with Mendocino County, and that's Captain Charles Fletcher. He's called Captain Fletcher because he used to run a schooner between Albion, California, and the ports of Oakland and San Francisco, moving redwood lumber from the mill at Albion.
And he built the Navarro Inn, and there was a mill. But he was, in his retirement years, he was an innkeeper, and he was known for his hospitality and how everyone, left his accommodations well fed and happy.
Right, and you're known for your hospitality with all the things that you do, all of the community fairs in which you participate, all the big communal meals that you do. Tamar, I know you've been going back and getting the bottles. Can you show people the labels, please, for the Captain Fletcher rye and also for the Spirit whiskey, because those labels are gorgeous.
Does it come through on the camera?
Yeah, right there. Stop right there. I'll move back a little bit. Pull it back towards you a little bit. Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
So
Love that. Can you also get the spirit whiskey one? I want people to see that label because the spirit whiskey bottle was gorgeous.
Yes, spirit whiskey.
Yeah, pull it back towards you, please. Pull it back towards you.
A little, there you
Perfect,
go.
perfect.
Whoop, whoop. There it
That's
is.
gorgeous.
So I thought
Yeah.
for spirit whiskey, we better have a ghost on the label, and there she is.
There she is. We dove into the full spirit.
Yeah.
One. By the way, did somebody just posted, Michael Applebaum. So you sell posters of the labels?
We do. We have posters for sale on the website, mendocinospirits.com.
You know what I love is that when I'm doing these interviews, obviously other people have more ability to do web searches and do other things.
Yeah.
And I love when people find stuff like that. So thank you, Michael, for finding that. That's great.
Yeah, and Josh, eventually we'll get the t-shirts going. Everybody wants the aged gin Raven on a hoodie. We've
that aged gin off the freaking hook.
The
great
posters
stuff.
are 9x24, so the aspect ratio stays the same. They're full color. They're absolutely beautiful print, and we encourage everyone to acquire one or all 5. We have all 5 Mendocino Spirits labels in the form of posters right now, and I know you're going to love them when you get them.
That's great. Eric, can you tell me if you have any specific questions now for Crispin and Tamar?
Well, you stole one of my questions, which was going to be bringing up the label and the artwork.
Sorry, man.
You don't look at your chat messages while we're talking.
No, I don't look. I only look at some. I get into this. It's.
Yeah. I wanted to give a shout out to Debbie, who says she's been a fan of Jermaine Robin for a long time. I saw that go by.
That's right.
A few other people posted that too, that they were also fans of Jermaine Robin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jermaine Robin Brandy was such a special project. I was so sorry to see it go to Gallo. Though we were at a trade show in Sonoma County over the weekend, the Wine Country Distillery Festival, and a local distributor for what's still Jermaine Robin Brandy was pouring, and there's still spirits left that were sold to Gallo on the day of the sale. They're still bottling original distillate, so I encourage people who appreciate that to seek it out.
Got it. So, Eric, back to you. Any questions for Crispin and Tamar?
Actually, I guess one question for Crispin. I know you really like to experiment with what you bottle. What's I don't know, I want to say weird, not in a bad way, but what's the weirdest thing that you've bottled?
Weirdest thing, we do make absinthe, and that's kind of weird. And I will say that people ask me, gosh, is that stuff psychedelic or whatever it is? I will say it's definitely not drinking vodka, and that every herb that goes into absinthe, our absinthe, because it's an ancient recipe, was at one time or still considered to be an aphrodisiac. Every herb that's in it makes you feel really good and puts a wonderful smile on your face. And I encourage you to explore absinthe. We also make a very rare rose petal liqueur.
Which is kind of weird because we have to pluck petals and make it. And we're just weird for doing it.
Yeah, it's absolutely weird.
And do you say, she loves me, she loves me not? She loves me, she loves me not?
Yeah. And so I would also say that everything we make is very unusual, if not weird, because we are actually going after ancient methods with slightly modern innovations. And there isn't anything we're doing that couldn't have been done thousands of years ago in various Bronze Ages or Copper Ages.
Right.
And remembering that the art of distillation goes so far back into antiquity, no one knows where it started or how we got here exactly. It's like that.
And we're also weird Americans because Crispin often says he's not looking at economics when we're making decisions about where the cut is. What
I'm glad you mentioned that because it's really funny. I'm going to come back to the concept of educating the consumer.
Mhm.
Okay, a lot of the more financially successful distilleries and ones that have recently been purchased by others, have done a really good job of making the same stuff every year.
Mhm.
Okay, a repeated process of the same stuff over and over. Crispin, you seem to really be combining both art and science,
Mhm.
in what you're doing here, and part of, I think, the artist in you, okay, and the also the creative force of the two of you together is, I have a hunch that you would be bored if you were creating the same stuff every year. That's just
Well, it's true that, both gin and bourbon are our bread and butter, but I don't always create the same bourbon every year. And
right.
that's really important. Um, Occasionally, some people will say, "Gosh, you must be a chemist," and I'll say, "I'm an alchemist," and this is really what it's about. There was a time earlier in my life where I paid close attention to the science end of it, but the fact is that when it comes to mashing and fermentation and distillation, aging, blending, the whole thing, I've done it so much that it's a bit like riding a bike. I have found my balance, and I do pay close attention to detail, but I also have done this so much now that I can't help but do it the way I do it. And I sometimes say I can't help but do it right. And we have a particular focus on quality, and I cannot
Mhm.
drop that. I can't get away from it.
And we're
Right.
also
Well, and that goes back to what Tamar just said about, financial decisions, as and not always paying attention to the financial decisions with respect to what comes out and what you ultimately produce.
right.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's all about the flavor town. And
Yeah.
also we have to remain flexible to who we are and where we are, and the availability of our ingredients sometimes change. It's
Right.
like barrels or supply chains of different grains. And so we will always remain flexible and continue to make delicious things with what's available to us. I think
Right. And
that,
also being smaller, you can't necessarily, get the supplies, that other people can get or can guarantee.
yeah,
That's
it
true.
is true.
We were talking about barrels earlier. And I'll tell you, when we started making whiskey, barrels from Independent Stave were $139 a piece with a minimum order of 10, and that included shipping. And those
Wow.
days are long gone.
Yeah.
And now that I'm getting barrels from Canton Cooperage, and I'm getting particular portion of the tree, I'm getting a particular age of wood. Um,
Eric has his hand up.
okay, those barrels are now $580 a piece this year. And in fact,
Wow, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. Yeah.
last year, the year before, they called me and said, "We can't guarantee we're going to deliver barrels to you next year."
Oh my
And
God.
this is a local sales guy that I've known for a long time. In fact, I think I've met the local sales guy at a Grateful Dead show 35 years ago or 30 years ago. And
Shocking, by the way. Yes, shocking.
so, so I said, "Well, what should we do?" He said, "Well, the vice president in charge of production is coming to California to visit. We'll bring him to the distillery." And he was this guy named Anthony Morris, who's an absolute Southern gentleman. And I decided to walk him through everything we're doing with their wood and demonstrate what we're doing to him. And at one point, and this guy's very Southern, he says to me, "Hell's bells, Mr. Cain. I didn't know they made good bourbon in California." And without missing a beat, I said, "Mr. Morris, we ain't just whistling Dixie."
Nice.
And it floored him. And it's all he talked about on the way to the airport. And so then the next vice president to come along was somebody from Cognac, because the French had bought this cooperage.
Got it. Well, I want to stop you on the story right now because we can go off for a long time, and I want to make sure people have a chance to ask questions. Okay, without us going to like 9 or 10 o'clock here. Eric, do you have any other questions for Crispin and Tamar?
Because you do.
No questions now. I reserve questions for the distillery tour.
Right.
But I do appreciate you guys, and I love everything that you guys do. So thank you for joining us tonight.
Wonderful. So people can raise hands, please, now. If you can use the raise hand function. Okay.
Debbie.
All right. Debbie Samuels. Debbie, please unmute.
I want to ask about barrel aging. Just we talked about cognac, we talked about sauternes. At least on the samples we got, doesn't even mention them. Like I didn't even know that until Gil, you talked about that. Do you highlight that on the actual bottles and it just didn't show up on our samples?
Well, we only have so much room when we print the labels, Debbie. So yes, when I the sauternes, when I put the list of whiskeys in the chat, I actually looked at the bottles and put some added detail in there.
Yeah.
Because that detail is on the bottles.
Yeah, the Sauterne certainly said aged in Sauterne barrels. Yep. The cognac, the Captain Fletcher we had last says that's aged in cognac.
Right. We just don't have that much room on the labels when we're printing up for the small samples, Debbie.
Yeah, but I can try and include.
Important point.
Yeah, I can try and include that on like the meeting invite and all that stuff, so you guys have the details.
For some of us, that's really key. And just gonna shout out for Jermaine Raban, early double-digit casts. I don't know if I ever saw any of the single digits when they were still numbering them.
Yeah.
Oh, do I miss those days?
Yep.
Yeah, we all do. When Gallo came in and bought, there was a lot of tears in Mendocino County.
I will admit to having a small collection of very old brandies from Jermaine Raban, and maybe one day we could get together, all of us, and taste some of those things, as well as mistels and ports he made privately. I have some of that stuff, and I certainly miss those days.
Wonderful.
Planning my next trip to California. I only made it to Sonoma last month. Didn't make it all the way up to Mendocino.
We understand.
Well, you'll get there next time. All right. Let's see. Eric, is anybody else raising a hand right now?
Not yet.
Not yet. I can't believe that. Did we go too long? Are people too tired? Or did they drink too much to ask questions? Okay. Bloom, I thought you sort of like raise your hand right there. Unmute, please. Oh, there we go. Paul Barron. Paul, please unmute.
Hello,
Paul.
how's it going?
Living the dream, buddy. Living the dream.
Fantastic. So I just want to hear a little bit about barrel entry proof.
Barrel entry proof. With whiskey and using the term straight whiskey, this is regulated by law. I must be between 60 and 62.5% alcohol for straight whiskey into new charred oak container. So I follow that pretty strictly. That's just how it is. If I use the word straight bourbon whiskey, heavily regulated words, the most heavily regulated words we have in our business. So I have to meet all the requirements for that. And that's what we do.
Okay. Wonderful. Good
so
answer.
With the non-bourbons, you just kind of stick to the same structure and everything?
Yes, I do. Going back to working at Jermaine Raban Brandy, we were barreling, coming out of the still after double distillation. Distillation proof is 140 proof or 70%. We're adding water at that point with the brandy to take it down to between 62 and 66% in those days. and do something similar with whiskey. It's coming out at approximately 140 proof, and we've recovered a lot of flavor there, and we're adding water down to 60 to 62 and a half. I've been doing 60 these last couple of years, and getting more of it into oak as I possibly can.
Got it. Wonderful. Wonderful. That's great. Paul, any other follow-up questions? Paul?
I'm behaving tonight.
You're behaving tonight.
I think
from-
Lynn has a question.
Who does?
Lynn has a question.
Lynn, please unmute.
I am. I have no idea. I got into Zoom hell. I couldn't do anything. Anyway, my question is, can we please consider having a barrel-aged gin tasting? Because I think the most amazing stuff I've ever had has been from Mendocino Spirits.
Okay, so let me talk about that for a second. Okay, you have to remember that a barrel-aged gin tasting, it depends on how many different versions of it there are available with any one distillery. Most distilleries that have barrel-aged gins, they only have like one or two versions of it available. I'll let though Crispin and Tamar talk about how many versions they have, but also realize that what they have is not cheap.
Well, we have two versions. We have both the Russell Henry Dark Gin, which has been aged for a year in both New American Oak and New French Oak. And we have the Mendocino, which that is, I forget how much that is retail. A bottle is 60. And then the Mendocino Spirits aged gin, which is 5 years in a single new 350 liter Limousin oak barrel from the Vicard Tonnery in Cognac.
It's 170.
That's 170.
So it is something, but I mean, we're willing to look at it, but we certainly have enough gin to support a gin tasting. And then we're not shy to try our barrel-aged gins against someone else's.
Well, and this is the whole thing, is I've got more barrel-aged gin in barrels right now, dating back to 16. And then I have some that I barreled last year, both in New Limousin Oak and New Kentucky Oak, that are not even a year old and
Okay.
looking really good.
Let's put it this way. To be perfectly frank, Tamar, I don't want to put you up against anybody else because I don't want to be mean to them.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. I just don't. I mean, not said their stuff isn't good, but we already know that we love your stuff. So I would rather not put another distillery,
Right.
not necessarily against, but in the same tasting as you. But we'll talk about that offline. Okay. We'll talk amongst ourselves. But Lynn, that's a great suggestion. I love that suggestion. Lynn, do you have any other questions before we go on to Yadida? No, I think we're good. Okay, Yadida, please unmute.
Hey, Crispin, you said that you were getting into the American single malt. Thank you. And so far, you've because you've talked so creatively, you kind of implied that because this is becoming an interesting space and an interesting market, that's why you're interested in getting into it. What are you hoping to do there? What are you going to bring? What is the Mendocino County artistry that you're bringing to bear in this market that makes it a fun place to be?
I am still going forward with the old cognac stills and that distillation method, and pairing it with some really fine wood from Kentucky. There's a lot of a single malt that goes into used wood, and I'm going to go for it with new wood and make decisions along the way in terms of how long it's in the new wood. I think that I'm able to bring forth really exquisite flavor. This is what I've seen so far. And frankly, I am not exactly paying attention to the rest of the world in terms of American single malt. I am doing what I do. I believe I'm doing it well, and I want to bring the best spirits I can to market.
Yeah, and I think Crispin's method of distillation and having studied and used the 500-year-old Charente method of distillation lends a specific touch to what we're creating. And not too many people are doing what we do. And there's other people using pot stills, but it's the way and the method that we approach it. So we'll see. It will be interesting to see what we produce. But I was trying to say earlier when we were talking about the barley that he came home floating on a cloud, just well chuffed about how well it's coming out and how smooth the spirit is. Just baby brand new, smells ethereal, kind of a thing.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
that sounds awesome. Wonderful. Thank you. Great answer. Myers, please unmute.
So, unrelated topic, although I do love the Jamaican ends, right? So I got a couple.
Yeah.
Those were just the ones I could find on short notice. But I was just going to make a comment on the gins and on the aged gin, just as a plug. So anybody in St. Louis, if you Google Gin World, a friend of mine, Natasha, has this. It's basically Whiskey Fest for gin. And it's in St. Louis. It's like the week of September. I don't know. It's around the middle of September, and it's for a whole week. So there's a whole week of events, including like blind tastings and you name it. So just look. If you go to their web, they have the different things, and some are inexpensive, and it's a lot of fun. The main event is not that expensive, and it's like on a Sunday afternoon, and it's like a smaller version of Whiskey Fest, but it's all gin. Aged gin, Amaros, and
awesome.
So
great. Do you have any questions, or are you just telling us that?
I was just telling you that. I put other stuff on the. I really like, for some reason, I get a cognac or like a brandy note on the 45.5. Yeah,
the Bavarian hard wheat. Yeah.
So, and I also put that on the Captain Fletcher as well. So,
yeah. Wonderful. Great. Awesome. All right. So I don't see, I do see now. Oh, Michael Bloom, our good friend, Michael Bloom.
I waved my hands like this when you said, "Are we too drunk to ask good questions?" And you called on prematurely. But Crispin, you just said something that got me thinking about what I wanted to ask you. You said you don't pay very close attention to the rest of the world when you make whiskey. I actually love that. But do you pay attention to the rest of the world when you drink? And if so, what do you imbibe that is not just your own product?
Well, I'm pretty partial to Middleton Irish whiskey. I'll tell you that. Middleton, very rare. There's two particular Middletons involved, but I have a kind of an indirect family connection to the Middleton effort down in Cork, and there's a soft spot in my heart, and plus it's pretty damn good. I'll say that. So,
do you know Brian Nation?
Yeah, we know of him. Yeah.
We know well. Is he still alive? I've actually heard he passed away.
No. Brian Nation. No, Brian Nation is now with Keeper's Heart.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
And I actually met him about 3 months ago, and 2 months ago in Minneapolis. He's in Keeper's Heart, and he's actually bringing whiskey from Ireland to Minneapolis and blending it with MGP, and they're starting to make also their own American whiskeys to blend with Irish whiskey that he's importing.
Oh, wow.
And he's a great guy.
So I have a bottle of Middleton Very Rare 2015 made by Brian Nation that I take out on rare occasion. It's very good. So my familial connection to the place is this. My first cousin, Bridget Fagan, her daughter is married to a guy named Joe who's from Cork. Siobhan and Joe are both school teachers down in Dingle and Kerry. And in fact, Joe's family has worked at the distillery for 3 generations, and he's the one
Wow.
who's not there. But when we went to Ireland, I think in 2015, and visited with them, he tries my whiskey and then takes us to his pub, which seats about 12 people. And the top shelf is the best Middleton. And this is
Yeah,
what he
that's awesome. That's wonderful. Michael, what other questions do you have?
No, that was my question. I get
It's a great
to
question.
talk to Crispin and Tamar soon, so I don't want to dominate.
So excited to see you and Eric
Wonderful.
on our
All
home
right.
turf.
Yeah, that's
Well,
going to be great.
Okay, so Crispin, Tamar, before we stop the recording and adjourn to our after party here, is there anything like on the recording? Is there anything that you would just like to say, just to sum up about your whiskeys? Anything that you didn't maybe have an opportunity to say tonight or talk about tonight? Anything in particular?
Yes. I will have a short limited bottlings coming of ryes, of bourbon, and I think that what I really appreciate is the people who are our fans, who like our effort, who understand what we're doing, and that is really important to me. It isn't just the fact that that we're making something that's actually leading to some actual financial success. That's really not entirely the point, but the fact that people can comprehend what we're doing and appreciate the spirit of what we're doing means a lot to me. And
we set out to make something delicious that we'd enjoy and we want to share with our friends. So we're glad our circle of friends keeps getting larger through enjoyment.
It's definitely working. And what I'd like everybody to do right now is I'd like everybody please unmute. If you don't have anything in your glass and you're inclined to do so, please put another sample in your glass. I'm going back to that rye because I can't help but going back to that rye. And everybody, if you're unmuted, please join me in saying a very hearty cheers and thank you to Crispin and Tamar.
Cheers. And thank you to Crispin and Tamar.
Awesome.
Okay. This was absolutely wonderful. We had a wonderful time. And again, thank you all very, very much. Thank you, everybody, for being here, for staying longer than we usually do.